You want to know the truth? The reason most people never reach their potential, never become who they were meant to be, isn't because they're not smart enough, strong enough, or capable enough. It's because the moment life gets hard, they run. The second things get uncomfortable, they look for an escape, they chase comfort, they crave ease, and they pray for a life without suffering. But here's the reality: you cannot grow without suffering. You cannot become stronger by avoiding pain. You cannot evolve if all you're chasing is comfort. Think about the times in your life when you truly changed, when you became sharper, tougher, more resilient. Was it during the easy times? Or was it when life pushed you into the dirt? When your back was against the wall, when you were forced to fight? Growth doesn't happen when everything is smooth. Growth happens when you're tested, when you're broken down, when you suffer. We live in a world where everyone wants the rewards, but no one wants the struggle. People want success without sacrifice, strength without pain, freedom without discipline. But life doesn't work that way. If you want to rise, if you want to stand out, if you want to live a life of real power, you're going to have to suffer. You're going to have to embrace the pain that others run from. And let me tell you this, the people who learn to suffer, the people who learn to endure, the people who don't break when life gets heavy, they are the ones who win. Because suffering isn't the end. It's the beginning. It's the birthplace of transformation. So ask yourself right now, are you willing to suffer for the life you say you want? Are you willing to carry the weight, to feel the burn, to go through the pain, knowing that on the other side of that suffering is growth? Because if you're not, then you're lying to yourself about success. But if you're ready to stop running from pain and instead walk straight into it, that's where everything changes. That's when you stop being average. That's when you finally grow. Comfort is seductive. It whispers to you, telling you that you've done enough, that you've earned the right to relax, that you deserve to take it easy. It's soft, it's safe, and it feels good. But what you don't realize is that comfort is a cage. It's not protecting you, it's trapping you. It locks you in a prison where you slowly weaken, where your ambition fades, and where your potential dies a quiet death. And the most dangerous part, you don't even realize it's happening. You think you're safe, but you're actually stuck. Look at the people around you. Look at society. Most people live their lives chasing comfort. They want the comfortable job, the comfortable home, the comfortable routine. They design their entire existence around avoiding discomfort. They choose the easy way out every single time. And what happens? They stop growing. They stop learning. They stop challenging themselves. They stop becoming more. Think about your own life. When have you actually grown? Was it during those nights when everything was smooth, when you were sitting back, scrolling endlessly on your phone, living on autopilot? Or was it when you were thrown into a situation you didn't think you could handle, when your comfort zone shattered, when you were forced to dig deep and discover parts of yourself you didn't even know were there? That's the paradox. Comfort promises safety, but it delivers stagnation. Discomfort feels like pain, but it delivers growth. You cannot have both. You cannot live in constant comfort and expect to build resilience, grit, or strength. Every muscle in your body is proof of this. If you want to get stronger, you have to lift more weight than feels easy. You have to tear the muscle fibers, let them burn, let them rebuild. The process is uncomfortable, sometimes painful, but that's what makes you grow. Now apply that principle to your mind, your discipline, your life. If you want to expand, you must endure the resistance. The sad truth is that comfort makes you weak because it makes you forget what you're capable of. It convinces you that avoiding struggle is the smart thing to do, that protecting yourself from hardship will lead to happiness. But the reality is the opposite. The more you lean into comfort, the more fragile you become, the less capable you are when adversity inevitably shows up. And it will. Life will test you, whether you want it to or not. So the question is, when that moment comes, will you be ready? Most people won't be. They'll crumble the first time life gets hard because they've been training themselves to avoid suffering their entire lives. They've been choosing comfort over discomfort, easy over hard, safety over risk. So when life throws them into the fire, they have no armor, they break. But the ones who train themselves to step into discomfort, who make suffering a habit, who willingly leave the cage of comfort behind, those are the ones who don't just survive the storm, they grow stronger because of it. Comfort is also an illusion because it feels permanent, but it's not. Think about it. That job you think is safe, it can disappear overnight. That routine that feels steady, it can be disrupted in an instant. That body you don't challenge, it will decay with time. Life doesn't stop moving just because you chose to stop growing. So while you sit in your cage pretending you're safe, the world is moving forward without you, and every day you stay stuck in that cage, you fall further and further behind. But discomfort, that's where freedom lives. When you're willing to suffer, when you're willing to put yourself in situations that test you, when you're willing to break free of that cage, you unlock growth that comfort will never give you. You become tougher, you become more adaptable, you become unstoppable because you're no longer afraid of the hard things. You've trained yourself to seek them out. The irony is that comfort feels like freedom, but it's not. It chains you. It keeps you dependent on ease, on routine, on security. True freedom comes from knowing you can walk into discomfort and not just survive it, but thrive in it. Because then nothing can break you. Nothing can hold you back. Nothing can keep you locked in. So here's the truth you need to face. Every time you choose comfort, you're choosing weakness. Every time you avoid suffering, you're choosing stagnation. Every time you take the easy road, you're locking the door on your own potential. You're putting yourself in a cage that only you have the key to. The question is, are you going to stay locked inside, or are you going to step out into the discomfort, into the suffering, and finally grow? The people who achieve greatness are not the ones who lived comfortable lives. They are the ones who walked willingly into pain, into suffering, into challenge. They didn't settle for the cage. They broke out of it. And in the process, they discovered who they really were. Comfort is the enemy of growth. And the sooner you realize that, the sooner you'll stop chasing what feels good and start chasing what makes you strong. Don't let comfort kill your potential. Don't let it chain you down. Break the cage. Step into the unknown. Embrace the suffering, because only there, in the fire of discomfort, will you find the strength, freedom, and growth you've been searching for. Suffering is not just about pain. It's not about punishment, and it's not about cruelty. Suffering, when faced and endured, is training. It is the forge that builds your mind into something unshakable. When you go through difficult moments, when you endure trials you thought you couldn't handle, something powerful happens. You build mental armor, and that armor is what separates people who crumble at the first sign of adversity from those who keep moving forward, no matter what stands in their way. Think about the last time you went through something that hurt. Maybe it was a heartbreak, maybe a failure, maybe rejection, maybe a time when you felt completely out of control. In that moment, you probably thought you couldn't take it. You thought it would break you. But look at you now, you survived. And what happened? You became tougher, you became sharper, you started seeing yourself differently. Because now you know you can handle more than you believed. That's what suffering does. It reveals your strength, and it layers your mind with resilience, like steel plating. The truth is, most people never develop this armor because they spend their lives running from suffering. They run from pain, they run from discomfort, they run from struggle. And because of that, they remain soft, fragile, and breakable. The smallest setback sends them spiraling. One rejection, and they give up. One failure, and they're done. That's not because they're weak. It's because they never built the armor that comes only from suffering. They never went through the fire, so they have nothing protecting them. But the ones who have faced real challenges, the ones who've had to pick themselves up again and again, the ones who've gone through failure, heartbreak, and loss, they walk differently. They carry themselves with quiet strength. They don't panic at every storm because they know they've survived worse. They have mental armor, and that armor cannot be bought, cannot be faked, cannot be inherited. It has to be earned, and the only way to earn it is through suffering. Now let's look at this from another angle. Life is unpredictable. It will throw things at you that you never see coming. You will lose people you love. You will fail at things you worked your heart out for. You will face rejection, humiliation, betrayal. That is not a possibility. It is a certainty. The question is, will you be ready for it? Because if you've lived your life avoiding all discomfort, the answer is no. You'll shatter. But if you've built mental armor through suffering, you'll bend, but you won't break. You'll take the hit, but you'll stand back up. That is the power of resilience. You think of suffering like resistance training for your mind. Just as a muscle needs resistance to grow, your mind needs pressure to toughen. If you lift only light weights, your body doesn't change. If you avoid struggle, your mind doesn't grow. But every challenge, every painful experience is a heavy weight added to your mental barbell. Every time you face it, instead of running, every time you endure it, instead of breaking, you grow stronger. You add another layer of armor. And over time, nothing, absolutely nothing, can touch you in the same way. Again, you've probably met people who seem unshakable, who remain calm in chaos, who don't lose themselves when everything falls apart. You might look at them and think they were just born strong, but the truth is they weren't. They were forged through suffering. They endured more than you know. They paid for that calm, for that strength with pain. And because of that, they have a kind of power that can't be bought or taught in a classroom. It can only be lived. Suffering also teaches you perspective. When you've been through real pain, small inconveniences stop bothering you. The little annoyances that derail other people don't touch you anymore. You've gone through too much to be shaken by something so minor. That's mental armor at work. It protects you from wasting energy on the insignificant, so you can focus on the battles that actually matter. And let's be honest, life isn't fair. It's not equal. Some people are born into comfort, into privilege, into situations where they are shielded from suffering for a long time. But here's the irony. The ones who've suffered, the ones who've had to claw their way out of difficulty, often end up stronger. Because while comfort feels like an advantage, it's actually a trap. Suffering, while brutal in the moment, is the great equalizer. It forces you to grow in ways comfort never will. It arms you with tools, with grit, with toughness that nobody can take from you. So here's the challenge. Stop running from suffering. Stop treating it like an enemy. Start seeing it as your trainer, because every moment of suffering you endure is a lesson, a rep, a layer of armor being added to your mind. That heartbreak, armor. That failure, armor. That rejection, armor. That time you didn't think you could keep going, but you did, armor. Every scar you carry is proof that you are harder to break than you were yesterday. And the more you suffer, the more you realize something incredible. Nothing external truly has power over you. People can betray you, life can throw setbacks at you. But if your mind is armored, you are untouchable. You might bend, you might fall, but you won't stay down. You'll rise, and each time, you'll rise stronger. That's the kind of strength that makes people unstoppable. Suffering builds mental armor. And that armor is what will protect you, guide you, and carry you when the storms of life come. Because you can't control what happens to you, but you can control whether you let it break you or build you. Choose to let it build you. Choose to see suffering not as something to avoid, but as something to endure, something to embrace, something transform into strength. Because in the end, the people who grow, the people who rise, the people who conquer are not the ones who had it easy. They are the ones who suffered and turned that suffering into armor. Discipline is one of those words that people love to say, but hate to practice. Everyone likes the idea of being disciplined, but very few are willing to pay the price that comes with it. And make no mistake, discipline always comes with a price. It requires sacrifice. You cannot have discipline and keep all your comforts, all your indulgences, all your distractions. Discipline demands that you give something up so that you can gain something greater. That's the part most people don't like to hear. They want success without struggle. They want results without giving up what's holding them back. They want to eat whatever they want, scroll endlessly, sleep in, waste time, and somehow still achieve their dreams. But life does not work like that. You cannot stay the same and grow at the same time. Something has to be sacrificed. Either you sacrifice your old habits for the life you want, or you sacrifice the life you want for your old habits. You can't keep both. Think about it. Every person who's ever achieved greatness has made sacrifices that others weren't willing to make. Athletes sacrifice comfort to train when they're tired. Entrepreneurs sacrifice nights out, steady paychecks, and even sleep to build their vision. Students sacrifice free time, weekends, and instant gratification to chase mastery. Parents sacrifice their own needs to provide for their children. Discipline is not glamorous. It is not about what you gain in the moment. It's about what you're willing to let go of now for the reward that comes later. But here's the truth. Discipline and sacrifice are not punishments. They are investments. When you wake up early to train, you are investing in your health and strength. When you cut out toxic relationships, you are investing in your peace and focus. When you spend hours studying instead of wasting time, you are investing in your future. Discipline feels like suffering in the moment because you're denying yourself something easy, something pleasurable, something comfortable. But that sacrifice compounds into something powerful: freedom. The irony is that the people who avoid sacrifice because they want freedom are the ones who end up trapped. They chase comfort, but comfort becomes their prison. They want the freedom to eat what they want, but then they're trapped by poor health. They want the freedom to waste time, but then they're trapped by lack of progress. They want the freedom to spend recklessly, but then they're trapped by debt. Discipline, on the other hand, looks like restriction in the moment, but in the long term, it gives you freedom because you've built a body that can move with strength, a mind that can withstand stress, a bank account that gives you options, a life that you control. Discipline also requires sacrifice because discipline means consistency. And consistency means saying no over and over again. No to the extra hour of sleep. No to the easy way out. No to the people who drain your energy. No to the short-term pleasure that kills long-term progress. Every no is a sacrifice, but every no is also a yes to something greater. You are saying yes to your goals, yes to your future, yes to the version of yourself you are becoming. And understand this: sacrifice is not just about giving up things. It's about giving up who you are today for who you want to be tomorrow. It's about letting go of your old identity, your old patterns, your old excuses. That's the hardest sacrifice of all, because it means admitting that who you are right now is not enough to take you where you want to go. And that stings. That forces you to change. But that's exactly why it works. Think of discipline like sharpening a blade. Every sacrifice is a strike of the whetstone against the steel. It grinds, it hurts, it takes away, but each time you are sharper, stronger, more precise. Without sacrifice, the blade dulls. Without discipline, your potential remains blunt and wasted. Now, here's where people get it wrong. They think discipline is about punishment. They think it's about living a joyless life of strict rules. That's not discipline. That's misery. Real discipline isn't about saying no to everything. It's about saying no to the wrong things so you can say yes to the right things. It's about sacrificing what doesn't serve you so you can gain what does. It's about creating structure so you can actually live with purpose instead of chaos. And yes, it will hurt. Waking up early hurts. Training your body hurts. Studying when you'd rather relax hurts. Walking away from people who don't respect you hurts. But that pain is temporary, and it is nothing compared to the regret of not doing it. The regret of looking back at your life and realizing you stayed comfortable instead of disciplined. That regret is permanent. And regret is the heaviest burden you will ever carry. The reality is you are sacrificing every single day. Whether you realize it or not, if you choose to hit snooze instead of getting up, you're sacrificing growth for comfort. If you choose to waste hours on distractions, you're sacrificing progress for entertainment. If you choose to indulge in every craving, you're sacrificing your health for pleasure. Every decision you make is a trade. The question is, are you sacrificing for the life you want or sacrificing the life you want? Discipline requires sacrifice. There is no way around it. But when you embrace that truth, when you stop fighting it, when you accept that sacrifice is the price of freedom, everything changes. You stop feeling sorry for yourself. You stop making excuses. You stop waiting for the perfect time. You start making the tough choices because you know what's on the other side. You know that every sacrifice is building you. Every sacrifice is moving you closer to who you are meant to be. So the next time you feel the pull of comfort, the lure of distraction, The temptation of just this once. Remember this. Someone else out there is sacrificing while you are indulging. Someone else is training while you're sleeping. Someone else is focused while you're distracted. And that someone else will have the results you wish you had. The only question is, are you willing to sacrifice? Are you willing to trade comfort for greatness? Because discipline requires it. And if you're not ready to pay that price, you're not ready to grow. Progress is not free. It never has been, and it never will be. Every ounce of progress you make in life will cost you something, and that cost is pain. Pain is the toll you pay for growth. It's the price that separates those who dream from those who actually achieve. And while many people will do anything to avoid pain, the truth is that avoiding pain is the same as avoiding progress. You cannot have one without the other. Think about the very basics of life. When you go to the gym and lift weights, your muscles grow only because you put them under stress. You push them past their limit. The fibers in your muscles literally tear, and it hurts. That pain is the price of growth. If you stop when it gets uncomfortable, you rob yourself of the transformation. If you refuse to feel the burn, you stay weak. Your body knows a truth that your mind sometimes forgets. Pain is not the enemy. Pain is the signal that growth is happening. The same applies to every area of life. If you want to master a skill, it's going to hurt. You'll stumble, you'll fail, you'll feel frustrated. Hours of practice will feel endless, and your brain will scream at you to quit. That's pain. And it's the very thing carving new pathways in your mind, building strength in your focus, sharpening your abilities. Without the pain of frustration, without the pain of repetition, without the pain of failure, you cannot progress. The people who succeed aren't the ones who avoid pain. They are the ones who embrace it, who see it as a down payment on their future. The problem is that society has taught us to run from pain. Everywhere you look, there's an escape. Entertainment, distractions, shortcuts, comfort, all designed to keep you from feeling the sting of struggle. But here's the brutal truth. When you numb pain, you numb progress. You can avoid the pain of working hard, but then you'll face the pain of regret. You can avoid the pain of discipline, but then you'll face the pain of failure. You can avoid the pain of sacrifice, but then you'll face the pain of being stuck exactly where you are. There is no escaping pain. It will find you one way or another. The only choice you get is whether that pain leads to progress or to regret. Every time you face pain, you are being tested. The question is not whether you'll feel it. The question is what you'll do with it. Will you let pain break you, or will you use it to build you? Will you quit when it hurts, or will you lean in and push harder? Every champion you've ever admired chose to endure pain so that they could reach levels most people only fantasize about. And the difference between you and them isn't talent, luck, or opportunity. It's whether you're willing to pay the price they were willing to pay. Think about a seed buried in the dirt. For that seed to grow into a tree, it must break open. That process is painful. It's destruction before creation. But without that cracking, there is no growth. That's you. You can't stay whole, untouched, and comfortable and expect to grow. You must be broken down. You must suffer through the pressure, the darkness, the weight. Pain is the cracking that releases your potential. Pain also teaches you things comfort never will. It reveals who you are. It strips away illusions. When you're in pain, you find out what you truly value, what you're truly made of, and whether your goals are worth it. Pain has a way of sharpening your focus. When life hurts, you stop wasting time. You stop entertaining nonsense. You start paying attention. That's why some of the strongest people you'll ever meet are the ones who have endured the most pain. Their progress was forged in fire. And let's be real, progress is supposed to hurt. Because if it didn't, everyone would have it. Everyone would be fit, successful, disciplined, fulfilled. But look around, that's not reality. Most people are stuck. Because most people aren't willing to pay the price. They want the reward without the sacrifice, the result without the suffering. They want to skip the struggle. But the struggle is the path. Pain is the proof you're on it. And here's something powerful. The pain doesn't last forever. It may feel endless in the moment, but pain fades. Muscles recover. Wounds heal. Frustration passes. but the progress that comes from it remains. The strength you built stays with you. The skills you sharpened stay with you. The character you forged stays with you. Pain is temporary, but what it creates is permanent. That's why pain is such a valuable price. It buys you something lasting. The people who never push themselves, who never endure pain, who never suffer for anything, they may look comfortable on the outside, but inside they're restless. Because deep down, they know they're capable of more. Deep down, they know they've settled. And nothing eats away at a person more than knowing they quit on themselves. Because the price was too high. That kind of quiet misery is worse than any pain you'll ever feel on the way up. So the next time you face pain, don't run from it. Don't numb it. Don't tell yourself it's a sign you should stop. Recognize it for what it is. The currency of progress, that burn in your muscles, that's growth. That frustration when you fail, that's learning. That heartbreak when you're rejected, that's resilience being built. Every painful moment is shaping you, refining you, strengthening you. Ask yourself this: what kind of life do you want? One where you paid the price and earned your progress, or one where you stayed comfortable and lived with regret? Because one thing is certain, you will pay. You can pay with the pain of effort, or you can pay with the pain of regret. You can pay with the pain of discipline, or you can pay with the pain of failure. Which pain do you want? Pain is the price of progress. If you want more, you must endure more. If you want to grow, you must suffer. Not because life is cruel, but because that's the only way forward. That's the law of progress, and no one escapes it. The ones who accept it, embrace it, and lean into it. Those are the ones who rise. Freedom is one of the most desired things in the world. People dream about it, fight for it, and chase after it. Everyone wants the freedom to live on their own terms, to make choices without fear, to build a life that reflects their true values and desires. But here's the part that nobody likes to hear. Freedom is not free. Real freedom, internal, external, emotional, and financial, always comes at a cost, and that cost is suffering. When you see someone living with true freedom, whether it's the freedom of financial independence, the freedom of self-respect, or the freedom of unshakable confidence, you're not looking at luck, you're looking at scars. You're looking at someone who endured years of discipline, rejection, failure, setbacks, and struggle. You're looking at someone who suffered for what they wanted instead of taking the easy way out. That's the paradox most people miss. To reach a point where you are free, you must first chain yourself to suffering. Think about this. When you choose comfort, you think you're free, but really you're a prisoner. The person who skips the hard work, avoids the grind, and numbs the pain is not free. They are trapped by weakness. They're trapped in a body they don't like, a mind that feels fragile, a life that feels small. Comfort may look like freedom, but it's a cage with golden bars. On the other hand, the person who suffers through the workouts, suffers through the failures, suffers through the sacrifices, that person eventually breaks those bars. They earn freedom through suffering. Take financial freedom as an example. Everyone wants it, but most people won't suffer for it. They won't suffer through saving, through saying no to instant gratification, through years of grinding to build something lasting. They want freedom without the pain. But the truth is that the pain of saying no, the pain of hustling, the pain of sacrifice, that's what buys freedom. Without suffering now, you will suffer later, under the weight of regret, under the burden of debt, under the chains of dependency. You cannot escape suffering. You can only choose which kind leads to freedom. The same applies to mental freedom. Mental freedom means you can walk into any room without fear, speak your truth without shrinking, and stand tall in who you are. But that doesn't happen by accident. That happens because you suffered through rejection. You suffered through being underestimated. You suffered through being told you can't. You suffered through battles with self-doubt and kept going anyway. That suffering is what hardens your mind and frees it from the opinions of others. Every scar you carry from pain is also a lock you've broken off your cage. And let's not forget emotional freedom. Emotional freedom means you're not controlled by anger, fear, anxiety, or resentment. But to achieve it, you must suffer through self-control. You must suffer through biting your tongue when you want to lash out. You must suffer through forgiveness when it feels impossible. You must suffer through the discipline of mastering your emotions rather than being mastered by them. People who are emotionally weak think they're free because they can say whatever they want or do whatever they feel, but they're not free, they're enslaved to their impulses. True freedom is when you suffer enough to train yourself to rise above those impulses. Suffering is the training ground for freedom. It strips away weakness, it destroys illusions, and it forces you to confront yourself. You cannot hide from yourself in suffering. When life hurts, when the work is grueling, when the rejection stings, that's when you meet the real you. And if you keep walking through that fire, you'll find that the chains that once held you back are gone. The irony is that most people run from suffering because they think it takes away freedom. They think suffering means limitation. They think suffering means restriction. But in reality, the opposite is true. Temporary suffering creates lasting freedom. Temporary comfort creates lasting suffering. You choose your prison. You choose your pain. Let's be honest, freedom is rare. Not everyone will have it because not everyone is willing to pay for it. It's much easier to live a comfortable, controlled life where someone else calls the shots. It's much easier to take orders, follow the herd, and hide from struggle. But if you want to live free, truly free, you have to suffer in ways others refuse to. You have to sacrifice when others won't. You have to endure when others quit. Every person who has ever risen to greatness, every person who has ever tasted real freedom has walked through suffering. The soldier suffers through training, through fear, through war, and earns the freedom of courage. The entrepreneur suffers through risk, through loss, through relentless grind, and earns the freedom of choice. The athlete suffers through early mornings, endless practices, brutal defeats, and earns the freedom of mastery. None of them got there without pain. None of them were spared the suffering, and neither will you. But here's the reward. Suffering is temporary, but freedom is lasting. The workout ends, but the strength remains. The rejection fades, but the confidence it built stays. The sacrifice hurts in the moment, but the independence it creates lasts for a lifetime. That's the trade you're making every time you suffer. You're buying freedom with pain, and it's always worth the cost. So ask yourself, do you want the illusion of freedom that comfort offers, or do you want the real thing? Do you want to spend your life avoiding pain, only to end up trapped by regret, by weakness, by limitation? Or do you want to embrace the suffering that leads to strength, to discipline, to independence, to freedom? Because those are the only two options. There is no middle ground. Suffering creates freedom. Not the kind of suffering that comes from being a victim, but the kind you choose, the suffering of discipline, of sacrifice, of pushing yourself past your limits. That's the suffering that frees you. That's the suffering that takes you from surviving to living. That's the suffering that transforms your life. And one day when you look back, you won't remember the pain the same way. You won't feel the sting of the sacrifices. You'll feel gratitude that you endured. You'll feel pride that you didn't quit. And you'll stand in the freedom you earned, unshakable, unstoppable, and unchained.